Today, we're diving into a story that's about so much more than just sports. It's really about promises, about incredible potential, and about a system that seems to be failing its most valuable players. We're going to get into the massive, troubling gap between government funding and the reality for athletes in Meghalaya.
So on one side, you have the promise, right? You see these headlines about generous government budgets, all this money being set aside for sports development, but then you look at the reality on the ground, and it's a completely different picture. We're talking about athletes training in crumbling facilities, often without the basic equipment or the financial support they desperately need. It just doesn't add up. So you have to ask,
where does all that money, the money that's supposed to be building champions, actually end up? This is the big question, you know? And we're going to unpack it today, following a trail that reveals a system that is in some serious need of reform.
okay, so let's get into it. Let's follow that money trail. We're going to break down exactly how a system that's supposed to be nurturing talent can end up doing the opposite, undermining it at almost every single turn. It starts with the very foundations, and I mean that literally. We all see the announcements about shiny new stadiums and big sports complexes being built. But have you ever wondered why these multi-million rupee projects often become unusable, sometimes within just a few months or a couple of years? The answer points to a really deep-seated problem. Well, this right here is pretty much a blueprint for failure. We're talking about contractors, allegedly using cheap, substandard materials, not even meeting the project's own specifications. And then inspection reports are supposedly being falsified. What's the result? You get these bloated, inflated contracts that benefit a select few, while our athletes are left with dangerous or completely unusable facilities. Okay, so the infrastructure is a massive issue. We get that. But what about direct support for the athletes themselves? You know, the stipends, the training support, the money to travel for competitions. How much of that big budget pie actually makes it into their hands? The answer is, well, it's pretty grim. A very, very small fraction. The information suggests that the vast majority of the money just gets eaten up by administrative costs, those same inflated building contracts we just talked about, and other forms of corruption. So think about this. Many athletes are forced to fund their own careers. They're succeeding in spite of the system, not because of it. Beyond the money, there's the whole question of opportunity. Let's say an athlete tries to get government support. Just how fair and transparent is that selection process? Is it really based purely on merit? The big problem is that the whole system is like a black box. You hear allegations of favoritism and nepotism all the time. And since there are no clear, published rules for who gets selected, there's just no public accountability. This means if you're a deserving athlete and you get overlooked, you have no real way to challenge it. It's a system that can crush the very talent it's supposed to discover. Now, I know this all sounds really bleak, but there is a path forward. This next part is all about a blueprint for change. This isn't just about pointing out what's wrong, it's about looking at concrete, actionable solutions that could empower citizens to reclaim sports for the athletes. So here are 4 really powerful steps that have been proposed. First, create a sports authority that's autonomous, free from political meddling, where athletes and coaches actually have a seat at the table. Second, mandate 5-year maintenance clauses in all construction contracts. That way, builders are held accountable. Third, and this is a huge one, create a public online portal that tracks every single rupee. And finally, empower athletes' associations to fight for their rights in court. At the end of the day, all of these steps boil down to one simple, powerful idea: making every rupee accountable. It's about pulling back the curtain and creating a system with radical transparency, where public money is actually used for its public purpose, supporting our athletes. So, as we get to the final whistle on this explainer, what's the most important thing to take away from all this? Well, it really comes down to the power that we all have just by being informed citizens. Because the first, most critical step to fixing a broken system is understanding exactly how it's broken. When the public knows what's going on and starts demanding accountability, that creates pressure that can lead to real, meaningful change. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. When our athletes step onto that field to compete for glory, carrying all of our hopes with them, who's responsible for making sure the system backing them up is actually fair? The answer, ultimately, starts with all of us.